Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started right on time, so there'll be lots of people kind of trickling in. So while we're waiting, we have 2 minutes. If you all could just type in the chat box, I'm curious, for those of you that are interested in marketing, I'm assuming that's why you're here. If you could chat in the box what your favorite marketing class was in just maybe like a few words about why. For those of us joining, we're kind of doing a little mini icebreaker at the beginning here before we get started here in the next couple of minutes. If you could type in what your favorite marketing class was and why in the chat box, please, to share with everyone. I swore I was going to get started on time, but I think we'll let a couple more people trickle in. We had 60, I think 65, so we're clearly not anywhere near that. So. So those just hopping in, we're sharing in the chat box about what our favorite marketing class was and why, just to kind of share information, best practices, classes maybe you could take. And apparently there's no admitting process. Everyone's just coming in, Brie. So after I get started, if you could just let everybody in, that'd be great. These are great answers. Thanks everyone for sharing. All right, let me pull up my presentation here. I don't know why my Prezi isn't showing up. You able to see that? Okay. I'll go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody. My name is Kelly Martin. I am a career counselor at the School of Business. So welcome. I know we have a large majority of marketing majors, communication, English, business admin, wide variety. So today's presentation is called Preparing for the Marketing, Communication, and Public Relations Career Fair. This is kind of a first for us. It's in response to COVID, and so we know many of you are very hungry and curious about, hey, I'm still wanting to learn as much as I can about marketing. How can I get that information? And so there's a lot of pieces that come with impressing an employer, connecting with employer, and then there's an additional piece that comes with how the heck do I maneuver the online platform that we're going to be hosting this event in. So the first part of the presentation is going to be kind of just hitting on some basics of how to prepare. And then Brie will be sharing at the end, like the last 20-25 minutes, some additional information about how to maneuver Brazen, which is our online virtual networking platform. Basically register, develop your profile, upload your resume, and then just kind of give you a little tour of the tool. I understand that networking is always very, very nerve-wracking, and to also know that there's this digital component to it. We want you to feel comfortable and confident when you hop on Brazen for our event next week. So let's just jump right in. I'll share a little bit of information about myself, and then we're going to go into resume review, how to research for this event, practicing your personal pitch, and then conversation starters. The conversation starters piece, I'm going to be asking each of you to be contributing. What would be some good conversation starters that you think that you could ask the employer? Normally we would do this in like a breakout session, but because there's so many people, we'll save your time and we'll just kind of get creative with that. So know that that's coming. So for the first piece for the event, before we even look at the organizations, before we even know who's there, we want to make sure that you're prepared in having a conversation with employers that shows what your skill sets are, okay? So with your resume, we want to make sure, and this is just kind of some reminders, make sure that between now and next week that you have someone take a look at your resume and review it. Most of my students have either resumes that they haven't taken a look at since high school. Maybe they had a class that they did their freshman or sophomore year. They haven't added in their internships, or they haven't added their extracurricular activities. And so all of these things are really important, especially in the virtual world. This piece of paper is a piece of paper that's going to be selling you. And so there's a lot more riding on your skill sets because we don't have the face-to-face interaction to be building that synergy. So including marketing terms on your resume is key. So just being aware, we know algorithms are life, but when it comes to resumes and also the cover letter, you won't need a cover letter for this event, but those combined are going to be oftentimes put through a company's website, and those keywords will be how they pick out to see if you're qualified or not. And so we want to make sure that you have all the marketing terms on your resume. Even, let's say, I gave this example earlier today, let's say you were a sales associate at Abercrombie & Fitch, and for 10 minutes of your 7 months that you were there, you worked on a marketing campaign, but you work with majority of the customers in your role. Even though you work with customers in your role, you would probably think to put that as your first bullet point, but really you want to be talking about things that might be related to marketing and to your future profession. So just kind of keep that in mind. And we'll talk a little bit today about how to upload your resume to Brazen before the event, because those are some of the things that can kind of get a little bit hairy, especially if you're like, okay, I'm hopping in, I have an hour, I need to upload my resume, I need to do registration. There is a queue process, and so there is some time that it will take. We want to make sure we get that covered before the end of the day today. So here is just a general example. I know there's a lot of information out there about what the heck should be on a resume, where it should be placed. Do I do an objective? Do I not? Do I have a summary? Do I not? This is the general resume platform or template that I shouldn't even call it a template because you can't input things, but this is the format, that's the word I'm looking for, the format that we encourage not only marketing students, but all students to have their resume set up. You'll see that education is at the top. The reason why that is important is because right now it's probably the biggest thing on your resume. You will see examples of education in the bottom or different areas, and maybe even have some individuals tell you that your education should be at the bottom of the resume. Right now, when you're in college, you want it to be at top, mainly because a lot of employers, their first requirement is working on a college degree. And so you're showing them right away that I have that. Work experience. So you want to have a minimum of 2 roles there. And it doesn't necessarily related to marketing. Many of my students have barista, bartending, serving jobs listed there. Leadership experience. Now, this is oftentimes where I work with students, and for some reason, the format that they have on the work experience section starts to get wonky. They start doing things different. Maybe they don't have the dates on the far right, or they're not starting. You'll see in this template that the title is first and then the organization is second. So make sure it's uniform. And the leadership experience, this could also be a variation of things that are extracurricular activities. So it could be extracurricular, it could be volunteerism, it could be various things. And you want that title of that section to be reflective of what your experiences are. So title, organization, university, dates on the far right. You don't have to have bullet points, but for leadership roles, I definitely do suggest having bullet points. Here's the thing. We know that we have these career readiness programs in arts and sciences and in the School of Business. And so what's kind of happened is that employers, they don't necessarily know that we have those programs, but what they do know is that when they come to events that USD students show up. So we have definitely started to have, we have the reputation with hiring managers that our students are really involved in things outside of the classroom. And so, which is true, but so I really want you to make sure that this is just an important part of your resume as your work experience. And even if you maybe don't necessarily have something right now, thinking about how before graduation you can get to that point. You'll see here the American Marketing Association. It's a shameless plug for them. They are an organization, hopefully y'all went to the presentation they did yesterday where they had Google Sales come on and chat. They have a lot of ways to help you learn more about your profession and connect with employers. So hopefully you can just get involved there. Related projects. This is also a great way for you to start talking marketing verbiage on your resume. Oftentimes, if you don't have a lot of marketing experience, this is a good way to talk about a project that's very similar probably to a role that you're applying for. And then awards and skills, you'll see how those are built out. These resources are available on Handshake. So if you're taking notes right now, if you want to find this marketing template, you would go to Handshake. Then you would go to Career Resources, or excuse me, Career Center. In the middle of the page, you'll see that it says Resources. And then you'll go to the Career Guide, which is about 10 down. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see a PDF, and that PDF will say Marketing Resume, and that's where you can find this example. Okay, so that's kind of the quick information piece about resumes. And one thing I just want to add lastly is that we do have a lot of our appointments with career counselors booked up for the next week because a lot of students are preparing for this. But I do want to plug that I have drop-in hours every single day from 10 to 11. And my peer, Tracy DiCella, has drop-in hours every single day from 2 to 3. And so I'm just going to put in the chat box, Brie, if you wouldn't mind, my email address, which is my first and last name at sandiego.edu. For those of you that want me to send you the link to our drop-in hours, I'm happy to do that for you so that you can pop in, even if it's for 10 minutes, to have your resume reviewed by us. Okay, so the next piece is research. I know that everyone knows we can see what companies are going to be there and then we go look at their website. But the hard thing is about that, and one piece that's really missing is that a lot of these websites are built out for clients. So let's say you are interested in working at, one of them is going to be a healthcare provider. Where the heck would you even begin to start looking to find information about the marketing department? So I'm going to just kind of share with you some tidbits. First, what we're going to do is we're going to go, and Brie will be sharing where you can find this link. But this shows all of the oops, maybe I need to switch my view. Let me do that really quick. This shows all the organizations that are currently planning on coming to the event so that we can start getting the names of the companies that we need to research. All right, so here it is. This is the information. This is where it's a little bit later, but where you can register for Brazen and contact information. And then here are the organizations. We have 10 so far that are listed that are going to be attending this event. So I'm curious, how are some of these organizations marketing related? Rescue, I know, is a top agency that we go to, but these other ones like Sharp, clearly Sharp has a marketing department, but how can we go about looking to find information about Sharp or any of these other organizations? And so let me just go back to the presentation. I think starting with the name of the organization is key, and there's two places that I always encourage students to look. So the first one is glassdoor.com, and I'm just going to show you, I'm not sure, can everyone see that I'm pulling up Glassdoor right now? Brie, are you able to see that? Yeah, okay, good. So Glassdoor, if we would just go on there randomly, it doesn't look like much, right? But what Glassdoor is Glassdoor is the Yelp for employers. And so you can go in here and you can look up any information that you would like to know, whether here you'll see that I'm taking a look at jobs, but there's also company salaries and interviews. So I'm just gonna kind of take a look at what they have on there about interviews because I'm super curious. And this gives you an insight into what it's like to work there. And then information about questions that they're gonna ask, etc. This can give you information about benefits, interviews, what the experiences were like, what types of questions that they asked. I mean, looks like the most recent one that we have here is September 8th. It's fantastic information to give you insight. You're not going to find that on their website. You're not going to find anything about the questions that they ask or what that environment is like. And so that type of information, you know, I don't know about you, but before I even go to a restaurant, I probably know what I want. If I know I'm going out to eat with my friends on Friday night, I look at the menu, I look at the Yelp reviews, and then I figure out what I want based upon that. I also like to look at the pictures. So this is going to be your best friend. The second piece that's really important is LinkedIn. So everyone knows that LinkedIn is a great place to probably connect with professionals, but there's really good intel in there for people that are potentially looking to work there because this is not promoting necessarily their product, it's promoting their culture and their organization. And so this is where you can find, look at right away, we find a related video that's from a talent acquisition person who might even be on the call tomorrow or next week. And he's talking a little bit about what it's like to work there. So this is my two best practices of trying to find information about organizations. And I think what happens a lot of the times with students is, like as a student, when we're researching for a project, we're like, okay, let me go to the history. Let me memorize when they started or how many employees they have. What I really want you to be doing is intuitively getting involved in the process to see what you like and what you don't like and kind of be learning along the way. So we do this in other things in our life. We do this when it comes to, let's say, for instance, for those of you that have bought a car. You're not going to go, if you're interested in the Subaru, and figure out what year Subaru started and the whole history about the turbines in the Subaru. You're going to look at generally, what are you interested in Subaru? What types of features do they offer? And kind of whittle down some things that you're excited about. And so that's kind of the path I want you to take. And that's for two reasons. A, I want you to learn about the organization so that you can clearly show up and be knowledgeable in the interview, or not even just the interview, to meet them at the event. But also you're going to learn a lot about what you like and what you don't like. Maybe healthcare marketing is for you. Maybe it's not. But in this process, you're going to be learning about the different types of marketing, the different types of roles that they have. And you're going to be learning about the organization and see if it's a good fit for you. So that is my suggestion on research. Let me go back to the presentation. So what to look for, be looking for things that are important to you, be looking at things that stick out to you, and where to look. We mentioned Glassdoor, also LinkedIn. Of course, I want you to take a look at their website, but I just mentioned those two because they're very, I think that they're going to be giving you the information that you're looking for. And my last tidbit of advice with research is be curious. This is not a test. It's for you to be able to show up and sound like a knowledgeable person. I think many times students will show up and they'll say, tell me about your organization. And I think that can be off-putting to the HR person or the person who's on the other end because they're like, bro, you got the internet. Try it. And so I want you, when you're asking questions for conversation starters, usually start with the baseline of information that you have and then go in asking additional questions. I don't want to say that there is no dumb question because I want to make sure that you're informed. This is an environment for you to be impressing the employer. So find a piece of information about the organization and then ask them something based upon that, I think is the key to remember. Okay, so personal pitch. This is going to look a little bit different because it's a virtual pitch. And Brie will get into this a little bit later, but there's going to be kind of two options for pitches. So how it works is that you'll wait in a queue, and normally when you're waiting in the queue, you're not doing your homework, you're not doing other things. That might be what you're doing this year for this virtual fair, depending upon how many people are in line in front of you. And then when the employer basically is available, they will prompt you to either be doing old school chat, so you'll be online chatting and typing, or they'll prompt you to do a virtual call. And so that kind of means that our students have to be able to juxtaposition between both types of pitches. And so my best practice advice for you, and you'll see this for number 7, is have your pitch typed up so that you can kind of be prepared for a virtual chat. And you can just cut and paste, because what I don't want you to be doing is, oh my gosh, I have to type quickly, what's happening? That's all things that we can kind of use as a pro for us because of the chat function. And then of course be practicing your own pitch that you could be doing on a virtual conference call. So what does your pitch entail? It includes your name, your major. If you have looked at their website, you want to take a look at what types of maybe either internship programs they have. A lot of large organizations have pretty robust internship programs. So this would allow you to do some research and say, hey, you have your Aspire internship program. I noticed that you have 4 different departments. I'm interested in the marketing and the PR department. And so that would be part of your pitch. Knowledge of the company, your interest in their work. So one thing that really stuck out to you, one thing that's really, really easy to do with marketing is you can talk about their marketing. That's one thing that makes marketing pitches a lot easier, because we have a virtual or we have a physical thing that we can talk about that they were probably, or maybe they were not involved in. Whereas if you're, an accounting major, you don't necessarily have those things that you can access. Skills and experiences that you offer. So various, there's various types of marketing out there. If you're interested in SEO, if you're interested in business analytics, if you're interested in the design aspect, all of those different pieces are going to be important. And then I don't know how many agencies we're going to have on tomorrow or next week. Excuse me, I keep saying tomorrow, next week. But you also want to know who their clients are. So anytime, even if it's outside of the event next week, you want to be familiar with who their clients are, because oftentimes they're going to be talking about the different work that they've done with the clients. And oftentimes, and let's say we have a client, we have an agency in San Diego, their big client is Puma. Then you want to go down the rabbit hole to look at Puma and the things that they've done so that you show actively engaged in the process, and you can show up and ask questions that are relevant to what they're doing. All right, a question about their organization. We'll kind of step into that next piece. And there's a lot of creative ideas out there. But I think oftentimes when we have a face-to-face interaction, it's like, what do I say? What do I ask these people? And it doesn't have to be anything super complex or difficult. I mean, again, there's a huge advantage that we have by this being virtual, because we get to be in the comfort of our own home. So if you want to, we don't know if that organization is going to want to talk to you on a virtual call, but what you can do is you can write down questions on a piece of paper and just tape it right above your camera, so that if you're like, okay, Sharp is asking me to talk to them, you could be looking at the camera and looking at the questions, so you can kind of be having an intuitive conversation, but using all the information that you've prepared for. Of course, it's definitely okay to look down at your piece of paper and pull things up, but that'll just make it look like you're even more informed, which I think is important. All right, just keeping an eye on time here. Okay, so conversation starters. Now this is the piece where I want y'all to start typing some stuff in the chat boxes. I know that we have a wide variety of experience with people with networking. If you could either look on the internet, I'm going to give you just about three to 4 minutes, either look on the internet and come up with some ideas on some conversation starters, whether it's a question or a thought, and type those things in. When we get to 15 responses, then we'll move on to the next part of the session. Well, these are some good ideas. I would encourage you to take a look at all of these. I think we have gone on a lot of tracks. We've done a lot of different events. And I think, you know, all of these are great. And you'll find that oftentimes it's not necessarily your job or your role to have to guide the whole conversation. You know, a lot of these recruiters, they're having conversation after conversation after conversation with individuals. And normally you'll see that they'll say, hi, you know, I'm Susie, whatever. What brings you here today is a very common question. And that's where you can kind of insert some of your knowledge. Like, oh, you know, I take a look at your website. I see that you have a really great marketing internship. So that's where the research piece comes in. Oh, wonderful. And then they're basically trying to figure out which direction they need to go and information to provide to you. And the conversation just kind of unfolds. Now, one thing that I really want you just to be aware of is that after you leave your time with that individual, there's two things I want you to remember. First, ask them the best way to follow up. And that kind of just leads into my next part of my presentation. Let me share my screen again. Conversation starters, here we go. Follow up. Okay, so ask the best way to follow up with them. This is kind of one of the things with it being virtual that's a little bit hairy because we don't have the exchange of business cards, which is a bummer, right? Because you get their business card and now you have their phone number. That is how you can follow up with them. But in the tool, you might not necessarily have that. And a lot of students are going to forget to ask that. So rather than saying, can I have your phone number, your email, ask them the best way to follow up with them. In Brazen, you will have the opportunity to send a thank you to them. But once you're at Brazen, how do you contact them if you're interested? And so follow-up is a huge part of this process. And it's not usually just one or two follow-ups, it's various follow-ups. And so you wanna just have it be top of mind of how can I get in contact with this person? So asking them is the best way. We don't wanna make the assumption that LinkedIn is the best. You do see here that I have messaged them on LinkedIn, and I think that's wonderful, but not all individuals are okay with that. Not all individuals have a LinkedIn profile. Not all individuals want you to be connecting with them. And so my biggest suggestion is asking them the best way to go about doing that. And then getting creative with how do I engage this person various times. And so remember, kind of think big picture. You're not just showing up to get an internship for now. You're building a relationship with a hiring professional that lives in San Diego. Oftentimes you'll see if someone's working at Sharp as a human resources professional, you're going to see them at different organizations throughout your time. So it's not just a transactional interaction with them, it's building a long-term relationship with them. Also, if you get really excited about who they are as individuals or their organization, you're going to want to get creative of how you can have some follow-up conversations with them. And ways that you can do that is asking for a virtual conversation, whether it's coffee or an informational interview. What an informational interview is that you have basically asked them a line of questions to learn more about them as an individual or to learn more about their organization, and know that career development can help you come up with those types of questions. But the idea is kind of like dating, you're trying to get a second date if you're interested in the first date. So just be thinking of ways that you can be creative. The last piece is take diligent notes. So I know that when the adrenaline's going or you have a connection, the coffee's pumping, you might forget things that you talked about with that individual. So you want to take some time to write down their name, write down what they talked about. And then when you do have the opportunity to follow up or send them a thank you card, you want to make sure that you're addressing and mentioning the things that they talked about. So for instance, hey, Susie, it was great talking to you about Sharp Healthcare System. It was wonderful learning more about the Aspire internship program. You had shared with me the public relations internship application is open right now. What's the best way to go about following up on that? Or where's the link to apply for that, or whatever it may be. So you'll see there's kind of some key points there. It might sound silly, but after you've talked to a few people, sometimes it all starts to kind of meld together. Okay, and that is my quick 101 on how to present yourself. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand the mic and the camera over to Brie.
All right. Hey everyone, I'm Brianna Laseski. You can just call me Brie. I guess a little bit about myself is I was recently in your shoes. I'm the class of 2018. I graduated with a degree in business economics, so I spent a lot of time in Olin, I'm sure as a lot of you are. Yeah, I also worked at the ITS help desk for 2 years, so I spent a lot of my time there too. And just to kind of get a feel for everyone, how many of you have already pre-registered for Brazen? And you can just add like a thumbs up reaction or raise your hand.
Thumbs up, we got some thumbs up. Okay, good.
Awesome. Okay, so today I'm going to kind of just walk you through, if you haven't pre-registered already, how to pre-register for Brazen, and also some tips and tricks within the Brazen platform that you can use. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oh, and I logged out. Okay. Here we go. So you're going to go to sandiego.joinhandshake.com and log into Handshake. And feel free to follow along. And if I'm going too fast, feel free to let me know.
I actually encourage everyone to follow along, because here's the thing. You might forget all of this when it comes, so you could maybe just pull this stuff as we're going, and then, because Brie's going to be your IT help, get these questions answered now.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we're logged into Handshake, we're going to go over to the Events tab at the top. And then in this menu right here, you're going to click on Career Fair at the top also. And then we'll go to the Marketing, Communications, and PR Virtual Fair. Okay, and then once we're there, we'll scroll down a little bit, and where it says register here for Brazen, we'll go ahead and click on that, and it'll take you to our landing page for the event. So then you'll click on register now. So you will have to create an account for Brazen. So once you click register now, you'll see where you can easily create an account: first name, last name, email address, password, and you'll sign up. I'll go ahead and log in since I already have an account.
Now, Brie, what if I am getting ready to do all this stuff on the day of the event and I don't know what to do? Who do I reach out to?
Yeah, so I will be sitting in the CDev Zoom room. I'll send that link a little bit later in the chat, but it's like bit.ly/CDevZoom. And I will be sitting in there, and if you're having any issues, feel free to stop by, and I'm happy to help you out. So go ahead and log in. So when you log in, you'll be asked to complete the event registration, and you can fill all of this out. If you haven't completed your passport points yet, you'll want to be sure to include your student ID number. And major's helpful. And keep in mind that some employers can see a few of these fields, not like the student ID, but like the major and minor, so they can get some background on you. And this area right here is where you will upload your resume. So you can just select a file and just put one in. And if it's not ready yet, you can go back later and upload it as well. So we'll just pretend that I filled all of that out for now. So now we will enter the event. You'll get some prompts. So this is what it's going to look like on the day of the event. And like I said, you can access this before the event and kind of do your research. So say you didn't finish your resume and you want to put it in afterwards. You'll go back here. Wait.
Brie, do you suggest that people put a picture on? Because it looks like there's a place for a picture.
Yeah, so definitely, oh, there it is. That will definitely help because it makes it like more personal, you know, like right now I have this little icon and, you know, it just looks a little bit better when you have a picture. Okay. So, yeah, sorry, we'll go back. And if you want to go back and upload your resume, you can just click on registration right here. And you could fill out all this information if you didn't have time to do it originally. And again, select file and upload it. And then you'll want to be sure to save afterwards.
And I see there that they're looking for a LinkedIn URL, like, so LinkedIn has to look good. Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, the employers will be able to take a look at some of that information on there. That's, yeah, like the LinkedIn and the major and stuff. So on the right side, you'll also see like the student survey. You'll want to be sure to take that to get your passport points as well. So yeah, here are all of the booths that are available right now. This is going to be a tool that you can also use to research companies, just as long as they filled it out. Some companies might not fill it out until the day of, but as you can see, like Sharp and Voices of Children, they've already filled out their profile. So we're gonna go ahead and enter a booth. And as they fill their profile out more, there will be more information here. Yeah, I would suggest also going to Handshake. There's a lot of information, like Kelly went over earlier about company information. And so yeah, this is the booth. And I'm gonna go ahead and switch so you can see what the actual chat interface looks like. It's not available right now because the event isn't live. So in the booth, you can also see a list of representatives. And on the day of the event, you will click on this green chat button right here to get in line. Now, keep in mind that some of these bigger companies might have a very long line. So it'll take some time to get in, but you could wait in multiple lines at the same time. So now I'm chatting with myself on a different computer. This is what the chat looks like. Go ahead and type to myself. And then if the employer wants to initiate a video call, this is what it would look like. So get this message right here. Highly encourage you accept it. It looks great if you do, and they really want to talk to you. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll accept it for now. You're not gonna be able to see anything because I'm on Zoom right now, but this is what it looks like. So yeah, that's like the video chat feature.
What is the timer that's ticking? Are you only given a certain amount of time?
Yeah, so you're given 10 minutes to talk, and the employer can extend it if they have like time. If there's a lot of people in line, they might keep it to 10 minutes. But yeah, after the chat, you'll get this this area where you can follow up with the employer right here, as in final thought. They will receive the message that you get here. You can also rate the rating and the notes. You'll be able to see on a different tab afterwards.
Well, the employer can't see that.
No, they will not see this. So this is more for your notes. If you're talking to a ton of people, you'll want to like keep track of who you talk to. So yeah, and then you could type notes like, this company seems really cool. And then you go ahead and finish.
Now, I think that section too, where your name is, that's where you write down the first and last name. Let's say you forget to ask how to communicate with them. There you could at least try to connect with them on LinkedIn at a later date if you completely forget.
Yeah, and then, yeah, so after the event, you can go back and take a look at your history right here in the history tab. And this is where you'll see like the notes that you took, the rating, also their first and last name. And if you want to take a look at the transcript as well, here's the conversation that went on right here.
Right.
Yeah, and
now how will I know what number I am in the queue?
So at this moment right now, Brazen doesn't have like the numbers showing. They used to, but they had to take it out because it wasn't working that well. Eventually you'll be able to see like how many people are in front of you in line.
Okay. So if this was you and you know the tool really well, what would be like, when you first get into the tool, what would you do? Would you go to every company and just press the green chat button so that you can get in line? What if they all happen at the same time? Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, so it'll only allow you to talk to one person at a time. So if you're in the middle of talking to someone, you won't see like any other chats going on. But once you leave, and if the employer is still available, it'll pop up as it did earlier.
Okay, so kind of like reshuffle you in the line then?
Yeah,
okay.
And Yeah, and you don't even have to go into every booth and like enter, click the green chat button to get in line. You could actually go to the search booth. So it's right here under my name. And you could use these green tabs, or blue, I guess, to wait in multiple lines. So now it's showing that I'm waiting in both of these lines. And just a few tips to make sure that the video chat works properly. I'd recommend using Chrome. So make sure you get that downloaded beforehand. And if your internet isn't the best, I recommend closing everything out. Don't be on Zoom at the same time. Just have like Brazen open. And also VPNs can kind of cause issues with the connection as well. There are a few others, and like I said, if you're having any trouble video chatting, we can try troubleshooting in that CDev Zoom room that we have. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Brazen. I'm open for any questions. Let me see if I could end this first.
Is there a place in this area in the room when they're in there to talk to you or to get help, or do they have to get out and then go to the Zoom chat?
They will have to get out and go to the Zoom chat, but we also, something worth mentioning is in the lobby. We also have these like CDev booths that you can take a look at. Like we'll have a few counselors in this prep station where they'll kind of get you excited to talk to the employers and answer any last minute questions, and also the info booth. They may be able to help with some light troubleshooting there also, but they may just send you to me as well.
Okay. Cool.
Any questions?
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Does anyone have any questions about Brazen or anything that I missed that you want more information on? All right. Sounds good.
So Brie, two things, if you could just include the bit.ly.
Yes.
At the bottom. And then was there any information you wanted to share with if someone did want to cruise around in the tool before?
Yeah, so if you want to take a look at the test event that I was just in where I was chatting and I was video chatting, I will include, or you can stay after this event is over and we can give you the link and all of that and we can try it out. This is the, oh, sorry, I messaged that. So that is the link that I will be sitting in on the day of the event where I can help you troubleshoot any tech problems that you're having.
Great, thanks, Brie. So two things I just wanted to mention. We did not talk about attire. And so I think that's a big question that I've been getting. I think normally I would say wear a suit. I think business, like what my top is have a business top. I think it's a wide variety for men and women and what you should do. I don't necessarily think that you have to wear a suit, but it just depends upon what you're comfortable with. If you're meeting with Sharp, they might be a little bit more formal than if you're meeting with another organization, but just realizing that you might be on a video chat. And so you have to be aware of a couple things. You have to be aware of how you look, and you have to be aware of what your background is. I know that in classes, it's not something that we necessarily think about, but I work with students all the time that are doing interviews over Zoom, and they have to be aware of close to their router. They have to be aware, I actually have a dog. And so, if I was talking to an employer, I might have my roommate. I don't have a roommate, but if I were you and I had a roommate, I would, have that person maybe keep an eye on my dog. Or if I live in an area that's really busy, I know I have some students that live in the Little Italy area and the planes are coming down, really, I've had students that have done interviews in their closet so that they can be aware of kind of the outside distractions. I think is really important to be aware of. It never fails. It's like your turn comes up and then your internet cuts out. So thinking about how can maybe you have 5 roommates and they're all using the internet at the same time. Maybe you figure a plan out beforehand, I think is key, because that's kind of the lifeblood, is making sure that the internet works and that we're making a good impression and then there's no distractions. And there was another piece. What was it? I think that was all. So we have some additional time. I'm sure normally I do this presentation all the time in person, and normally there's a lot of questions. I can stick around, Brie and I can stick around if you want to have more of a one-on-one conversation. But as we wrap up, I want to just, for those of you that would like to get your passport, compass, or connect points, you'll need to fill out this survey that I just included about today's presentation. in order to get points for that. So I'll hang out here for those of you that have questions. I'm also going to include, you already included my email address, right, Brie? So I'll just reiterate that here if you have some additional questions that you have access to us. So we'll stick around here for the next few moments and let us know how we can help, okay? Thank you for coming.
Is that survey what you just put in chat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The one with Qualtrics, yeah.
Cool. Thank you, by the way.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for coming.
I have a quick question for you guys.
Yeah.
So when we're going into this, should we be prepared to do an interview like on the spot, or is it more for them to get a sense of who we are and then they'll invite us for another interview later?
Yeah, so because of the sake of time, with the kind of running in the background, they won't have time to be doing an interview with you. What they'll usually do is they'll have a conversation with you, an intro conversation. They might send you to their website to fill out an application, and then they'll probably follow up with a phone call. You could always ask them too, hey, what's the, yeah, great, I'll go fill out the application. What's the follow-up and what's the steps in the process? So they might go, yeah, we're gonna be doing interviews, we'll call you for an interview. They'll let you know what their process is. Each organization is different.
Okay, sounds good. So it's more of like them just getting a feel for us. If they're interested, they'll kind of send us to their application. And then we could say, okay, like that's wonderful, we'll fill out the application. And then we ask them what's the best way to follow up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically
before we exit. Is that kind of
it's a meet and greet. So you're just kind of vibing with them.
Okay.
Some of them might have job openings, some of them might not. Some of them might have job openings in the future. They all have different reasons for being there. So your initial conversation is to kind of figure out what that is. They're going to want to know what's up with you. You're going to want to know what's up with them, and you kind of have those conversations. And then you figure out what the next best steps are. You might realize, hey, I'm not even interested. And so you're like, cool, great, wonderful, nice meeting with you. And then you're kind of on your way, but you're figuring out what the next steps are if it's a good fit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick general question.
Okay.
If I'm a business major and I'm also a psych minor and my psych GPA is not a lot, but a bit lower than business, do you recommend just putting my business GPA on my resume, or do you recommend like the whole thing?
Well, so most of them ask for your GPA, which would be all of that combined, right?
Right, okay.
So how, do you like the GPA number with them combined? Would you feel comfortable putting that on your resume?
I mean, the business one is just going to be higher, but I'll just put the whole thing, I guess. I can also just put underneath like separate things like this is my business GPA. It's a lot higher than everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of students, like the accounting students, they have 3 different GPAs that employers want on their resume. I find that most employers don't ask for those various GPAs. You just want to know what your general GPA is.
Okay.
But it's like, I'd say like 75% of the time they're not asking for the GPA, and that other 25 they are. So if it's something that you're nervous about, just be aware of the fine print. It's not a requirement to put it on your resume. So if you're like, hey, I'm not sure about it, you can just keep it off because they didn't ask for it. You don't need to tell it to them. I even have students that have 4.0s and they're like, well, I didn't ask for it. I didn't put it on there. But if they do, then I would encourage you kind of feel it out. If it's more of a psych-based kind of role and you're like, okay, I think I'm gonna put my general overall GPA, that's better. It's just kind of a judgment call for you, I think.
Right, okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming. Okay, that's it.
Did I do all right?
Yeah,
That was
you did
my
a
first
great job.
presentation. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, how did it feel? I don't know if I can